He's convinced that he has found a boat, but actually finds a sensational discovery. Hi everyone, and welcome back to True Stories. Today our story is about a curious child who makes a sensational discovery. Before we get started, be sure to subscribe to the channel, like the video, and ding the bell for more amazing videos just like this one. The boy found it, so he thought that he should be the first to see what was inside. He heard the sound of metal as he was about to discover all the ancient treasures it could be hiding. At that point, everyone around him widened their eyes in disbelief, and someone grabbed the baby and pulled him away. Casper looked around, examined the path to the right and the one to the left. One was signposted and full of hikers, the other was in such bad shape that it was barely a path at all. The second was just what he was looking for. Finally, it was time to explore the Estonian marches. The tips of the trees seemed to touch the sky, the view was spectacular, and soon Casper arrived at the lake. As Casper approached the water, he noticed tracks in the mud on the ground. He had gone on many excursions but had never seen such marks. He tried to touch them with the toe of his shoe, and then something else caught his attention. There was a rope. What was that doing here? Was there a boat buried at the bottom of the lake? He cleared the mud from the rope and tried to pull, but nothing seemed to move. The situation was unusual. He had to tell someone. He ran home and warned his parents, and slowly, word spread throughout the village. People began to gather around the lake to see what Casper had discovered. A man found another piece of rope in the mud, so he tried to pull, but just like Casper, he couldn't move anything. Even joining forces wasn't working. There were now more than a dozen people, but whatever it was on the bottom of the lake, they couldn't get it out. They didn't have the right tools, so they decided to call the authorities, and soon bulldozers arrived. They tried to tie the ropes to the vehicles to pull them, but nothing worked. Whatever was under the lake, it was too heavy. They spent 8 hours there, and even little Casper was keen to help out. Like everyone else, he couldn't wait to get his discovery out of the water. Then, finally, something moved. The tip of the mysterious object poked out of the water. Enthusiastic, everyone ran to get shovels to clean the road and make the bulldozer easier to work. When they realized what they were pulling up, the crowd gasped. The sun was starting to set, and finally the algae-covered monster was almost completely out of the water. Some immediately understood what it was and ran to clear off the mud and algae, revealing Casper's discovery to everyone. At the bottom of the lake, there was a tank. Everyone was out of breath. They had pulled out a piece of history. But what was a tank doing here? Casper immediately rushed to the door and was impatient to see if there was something inside the tank. Suddenly, he saw something glittering in the water. "Mom, are those bullets?" he asked immediately before feeling big hands grab him by the shoulders and pull him away. Despite the water, the tank was in excellent condition, but that meant it could still be dangerous. Then, they heard the sirens in the distance. A military truck was approaching the swamp. Someone must have called the police once they figured out what it was. The crowd went silent. No one knew whether or not they were in danger. A soldier approached the child. "Did you find it?" Casper nodded in fear. The man smiled at him. "You've made an exceptional discovery." It took 2 weeks to completely clear the tank and have the experts examine it. Thanks to the army and researchers, the mystery was finally solved. It was a Soviet tank, a T-34-76 to be exact, but it had been repainted by the Germans. The T-34 was the most popular weapon of the Soviet army during World War II. The tank had been taken by enemies and repainted with their own symbols. Then the Germans had thrown it into the lake to prevent the Soviets from recovering it. Scientists explained that it was so well preserved due to the very low oxygen levels in the swamp. The perfect condition of the vehicle was impressive, so much so that the army hoped it was still functional. And just like that, they managed to turn it on without difficulty. In addition, 116 pieces of ammunition had been recovered, along with a T-34-76. Now it was time to answer the question on everyone's minds. Why was that tank there in the first place? Numerous battles had taken place in that area during the war. Around 100,000 soldiers had died, and more than 300,000 were wounded. It was during the Battle of Tannenberg in the summer of 1944 that the Germans took the Soviet tank as a trophy. When, a few weeks later, they began to retreat, they left the T-34-76 behind, causing it to sink into the swamp. Today, the famous tank is a showpiece, a precious historical relic, one found by chance by a curious child. That's all for today. Thanks for watching this video. See you next story. Bye!